Okay, can everybody hear me? In the chat, could I get a thumbs up there from somebody, please, just to ensure everyone can hear me? Brilliant. Thank you, Denise. So good evening, everybody, and you're very welcome to our talk this evening on living with PKU and Palynziq. And the reason we decided that we felt this was particularly important for the Irish PKU community, because we are undergoing the health technology assessment process for Palynziq, and a lot of our community in Ireland and the PKU community in Ireland are very unfamiliar with Palynziq as a medication. We have a very high incidence of classical PKU in Ireland, and a lot of our patient group therefore would most likely respond to Palynziq as a treatment option for patients. So we're very lucky this evening. We have Krystal, who is a PKU adult and also has been taking Palynziq for a number of years now, so has extensive experience at using Palynziq, and we'd like to know a little bit more about it on a personal note. We acknowledge that this is your personal story, Krystal, and that everybody's story and everybody's experience of PKU is very different. Whilst one person, this is a very good treatment option for one person, it may not necessarily suit everybody, but we'd love to know about your experience. So if you wouldn't mind starting the conversation this evening, and I hope everyone can see you on screen right now. So go ahead. Tell us first of all, how long have you, so you were how old when you started taking Palynziq then?
19.
19. And why? And so for those of you who are not familiar with Palynziq, it's enzyme replacement therapy. So in Ireland right now we have Kuvan, and it's just recently been reimbursed, but you need some enzyme activity for that to be effective to help to control your Phe levels. So we would love to have more treatment options available for our patients. So with Palynziq, can you tell us how it impacted you when you first started to use it? Tell us about your journey from the start, really.
Okay. So when I started Palynziq, this was back when it was still in a research study. So we didn't have pre-meds that patients have now. So the first few months it was okay. I didn't have many reactions, just some slight itching. But my Phe levels, it took about 1.5 years for my Phe levels to start coming down. And when I started Palynziq, my Phe levels in America, they were 32. So if you convert that over, I think that's like in the 2000s. So it's very, very high. About 5 to 6 months into using Palynziq, I ended up getting some very bad joint pain, hives all throughout my body. That lasted for about a month, and then it went away. Now I know patients who are on Palynziq, they do take pre-meds ahead of time to prevent those types of reactions. So they kind of have the benefit there. I haven't heard of anybody who's had severe joint pain like I had after the study. And then when my Phe levels started to come down, they came down drastically. And now my Phe levels are at like a 2, which in Ireland, I believe is 100 or a 200. So it's very well controlled. Throughout my journey with Palynziq, I saw my attention span in school to become very, very good and way better than before. I actually did my own like little study, and I was watching, my Phe levels as they went down, how my GPA ended up going up. And I was like, oh, that's super weird. And I talked to my doctor, and she's like, well, you're better managed, you're better controlled. So I could see how that's benefiting you in your academics. Now that I've been out of the study and I take the medication at home, it's been going very well for me. I actually recently just enrolled into my master's degree program. For those of you who don't know, I am a registered nurse, and I've gone back to school to become a nurse practitioner, which is something that they utilize here in America. I don't know if they use it in Ireland or overseas, but I'm very proud to be doing well in that program as it's very, very hard.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, classical PKU is what you have, and how many exchanges would you have been, or how many grams of protein per day would you have been on prior to taking Palynziq? What was your tolerance? Were you
3
very
grams.
tolerant?
3 grams. That was it. But now that I'm on Palynziq, I can have up to 66 grams of protein in a day.
Would you find that difficult having to intake that? How do you monitor 66 grams? That's a lot. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot. I actually, you kind of get used to counting like how many grams are in an egg, and if you eat 3 of those, multiply it, and so like that's like easy. It is still difficult for me though to get that amount of protein in throughout the day because I'm so used to being so strict on watching what I eat. Even 10 years now being on Palynziq, it's still something that I struggle with, having to increase my protein. But I do know of a few men who are on Palynziq. They're like, oh, I eat steak, I eat hamburgers. It's like, I wish I had an appetite like that. I wouldn't have a problem, but I'm a little eater. I'm like a little bird when I eat. So that can be difficult, but my Phe levels are still maintained at a well number.
The medications, did you take medication at the start to help you to prevent anaphylaxis and all those side effects that you mentioned? Did you have to take medication at the beginning?
At the beginning, like I said, in the study, they didn't have the pre-meds that everyone's now getting outside of the study. But once they realized in the study, oh, this can happen or this can happen, so we should supplement with pre-meds to prevent this from happening, such as the hives, the redness, itching, joint pain. We were given antihistamines, steroids, and then Palynziq has a huge like red flag for anaphylactic reaction. So you're given an EpiPen to go home with just in case something were to happen. And to this day, I still have to carry my EpiPen with me just for that in case factor if something were to happen.
Do you continue to take pre-meds now at this point, or do you just keep the EpiPen to hand?
I only keep the EpiPen with me. I haven't taken pre-meds in the last probably 5 years. So, yeah.
And you mentioned about, changing your diet. It must be very different because when you start off and you eat a lot of low protein foods and all of a sudden you can have yogurt or you can have steak, like you mentioned, and everything. And people talk about even when they're going through a growth spurt, kids trying to get high exchange foods into them can be difficult because they're not used to the taste. Do you think that was something that you struggled with or no? Did you cheat along the way?
I've cheated when I was a kid. I did cheat, but nothing too extreme like a hamburger or steak. But I do remember right before my 21st birthday, they told me, your Phe levels are significantly low. Try eating some type of protein. And I was like, oh, can I eat a steak? And they're like, yeah, go for it. See what happens. I'm like, all right, cool. So I remember for my 21st birthday, I went out with my family and I ordered a porterhouse steak. And it tasted so good, but then I ended up getting sick because my body wasn't sure what the type of food was. So my stomach did get upset. I did get a little stomach cramps and stuff like that. But I was like, this is awesome. And then I shortly realized after I gotten sick that I should do this in moderation, not just gunline it and go for it. So I will say that if you do Palynziq and you are able to have that open freedom of a diet, do it in moderation. You're going to save yourself from getting ill.
Actually, there's an adjustment period for you, at least there was for you with food. And do you have to take any supplements now at all on top of Palynziq?
Yes, I do have to take tyrosine pills. In the study, they found that the Palynziq injection did decrease the tyrosine exchange in the body. So to supplement that, we take tyrosine pills. I take 10 a day.
Are they difficult to take? Are they large pills or?
They're big. So I do have difficulty swallowing them, especially 10 of them throughout the day. But those who can manage taking a pill maybe like that big, you should be fine. But I mean, I do find it difficult to swallow a pill, but it does come in a powder form as well. So you could always mix it in water. It's based off the availability of how you can get it.
And is there a big difference, do you think, for female patients taking Palynziq versus males? What, could you explain that to people who are listening?
So I know in the study, it was a big concern if you were a female who was sexually active, you had to be put on birth control. You had to, take pregnancy tests to make sure nothing happens. Now, after the study, they do advise female patients whom are taking Palynziq that if there is a chance of them becoming pregnant, to let the clinic know, to be on birth control, to make sure to take preventative measures, because if you are on Palynziq as a female and you do get pregnant, there is that chance of fertility death and complications throughout pregnancy. For men, they weren't as strenuous on them of their restrictions. They were kind of more open. They did tell me in the clinic that if something were to happen, to let them know immediately, so that way they can stop the Palynziq, switch diet to prevent any fertility problems from occurring. There's also, if you wanted to get pregnant, you'd have to time it out. You'd have to tell the clinic, hey, I would like to have a baby in the next year. So they would stop the Palynziq for up to 6 months, as the half-life of Palynziq in the body is up to 6 months long. After that 6-month mark, then you can try to have a baby. In that time period of adjusting from Palynziq, you'd have to switch back to diet and formula. So that is kind of like the negative part of it, but for the most part, it is very beneficial.
As we're talking about that, there's a question from somebody in our audience. Do you know whether it affects fertility in women in general, or is it only related to post-conception?
It doesn't really affect the fertility of the female or post-contraception. It's more so the I don't know how to explain it. Not fertility, but the fetus. It affects the fetus more so than it does the woman's fertility.
And you being a nurse, you're probably maybe not so afraid of needles, and you've been doing your bloods your entire life, but was it different adjusting to Palynziq? And could you describe to our audience as well how it, the injection site and how you choose it, or do you alternate, or how does that work?
So Palynziq is a subcutaneous injection, which means it is injected into the fat of your body. So you can use the sides of your thighs, your stomach, the back of your arms, as well as your buttocks. For me, it was challenging because when I first started, I was only like my prereqs, like I wasn't even a nurse. I didn't know anything about needles, gauges, nothing. But now they do come in pre-filled syringes with a 25 gauge needle. So it's kind of like a small little poke. It's not like a super thick needle. So what you do is you would take the side of your thigh, because I always do my thighs. Occasionally I do my stomach. It depends upon where most of your fat is in your body. And I wish I had like a little something to carry or hold. You would take the side of it. Can you see my arm? You take the side of like your thigh or your stomach and you push it up like this with one hand, your non-dominant hand. and you would clean it with alcohol in a circle. And then you'd wait a few seconds till it kind of dries off. And then I'm left-handed, so with your dominant hand, you would stick the needle with the open side up and push it in, and then push the plunger down. And the plunger actually has its own, forget the word, to pull the needle back. So as soon as you hear like a click and you let go of the plunger, the needle will come out by itself.
You've obviously adapted to it very easily then. Do you know other people who are on Palynziq that find that difficult? Or would that have influenced their choice of taking this up as a treatment option, do you think?
I know my sister has PKU as well. She tried Palynziq, but she's like, no, this isn't for me. She didn't feel like using a injection was a way of life for her. So she is on diet and formula. I do know of other patients who take Palynziq who don't have a problem with it, with doing the daily injections. But I do believe it's based off the person's preference and what they feel comfortable in doing. Is it a huge adjustment from going to no injections to having to do injections? Yes, it is a huge adjustment because you'd have to change how you do things. But I think after a few weeks of getting used to it, and with repetition and your doctor's there to coach you throughout the way, it does get better.
You got a lot of support from your doctor and your health professional. And how much support did you actually need?
At the beginning, it was a lot of support because you're in the study. So you're constantly at the hospitals, you know, getting everything done for you, getting your education, your teaching. After the study, the clinic still keeps up with us. We go in every 6 months, but then they realized, oh, we need to closely monitor these patients who are on Palynziq because of the side effects and the need to titrate the medication specifically to the patient and their protein intake. So now we go into the clinic every 2 months for clinic visits to check in and see how's our diet going. Are there any reactions? Have we missed any doses? And then on top of that, you do weekly or bi-weekly fee levels. So you do I don't know if you do it in Ireland on the fee card.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we still do it on the card. Yeah.
Okay, we still do the card as well here in America. So we do that. Some patients do it weekly, others do it bi-weekly. I do them bi-weekly. And you just...
Because you're on Palynziq, or is that in general for adults it's recommended bi-weekly? Or is it just because you're on Palynziq and you're more closely monitored?
This is for Palynziq, yes.
Okay. And ordinarily, how often would adults with PKU be monitored, their blood levels be monitored? I know it's probably individual. What's your clinics recommending? And how quickly do you get your blood results back? That's something that we struggle with here in Ireland.
Oh, we struggle with that too, don't worry.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't been on like the traditional PKU route in a very, very long time. So what I can remember, I believe the fee levels, they wanted them monthly, I believe, at least monthly. And their clinic visits are every 6 months. And then your results, I could send in a fee card and I'll get a call like maybe 3 weeks later with the result. So it's not as fast as you'd like it. But hopefully in the future, we can have a little monitor like diabetics do so we can check our own fees levels at home.
Oh, it'd be great. It'd be amazing. I think there's like 7 different handheld monitors in the world being researched at the moment. It would be just so incredible. I think of it so often. So, you know, one of the first times that I met you and I met other adults with, well, first of all, how would you describe the difference between being on Palynziq and having the best fee levels when on diet? Is there a difference?
Oh yeah. Oh, tremendously. There is a huge difference. I couldn't stay on diet if I wanted to. It was very hard for me growing up, trying to stay on diet, trying to keep up with taking my formula. It wasn't feasible for me. So at one point I was just like, oh, I'm just not going to drink this anymore. It was bad. I couldn't keep up with it, especially in high school. It was very difficult in high school. I was in activities. I wanted to play with my friends. I just couldn't keep up with it. And then once I got into college, I was like, I need to do something or I'm not going to be able to succeed academically and be successful or have a career. So that's when I reached out to my clinic at like 18 and I said, please, I need to do something. And they're like, yeah, come to clinic. And when I went to clinic, they told me about Kuvan. I tried Kuvan and I did not respond. I do have classical PKU, and a lot of patients with classical PKU did not respond to Kuvan. It was thought that Kuvan would be the next best thing, and unfortunately, for many of us, it just did not work. We did not respond. And a few months after that, they told me about Palynziq being in a research study, if I would want to try it. And I was like, I don't know, I'm young, I don't know anything about it. So I kind of did my own research on Google and I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. They're in phase 3, so that was promising. So I started the Palynziq and it changed my life for the better, I believe.
And your best levels with dietary therapy, when you had good levels and within range, do you think there's a difference with being on Palynziq now? Like for people who are doing really well on diet, would it be an advantage for them to move over to Palynziq if it became a treatment option?
I'm going to 100% tell everybody, yes, do it, because it's like the best thing ever. You do an injection once a day versus drinking formula 3, sometimes 4 times a day, depending upon your weight and how much you eat. And then also you get that freedom of eating whatever you want, not having to worry when you go out with your friends or with your family, or worry about when you go to birthday parties or holidays, having your family have to make a special dish for you. You have that open door where you can pick what you want off that table. You can eat that cake that they made and it wasn't specially made for you. So I would tell everybody, even if you're really good on diet, if you make the change over to Palynziq, you probably have opened yourself a whole new world that you didn't know existed.
I did hear one adult with PKU say, even with the best levels on diet, that they just felt so much better on Palynziq. And I'll be honest with you, at the time I was investigating gene therapy for my own family member, and I thought that was going to be the real deal. And I had overlooked Palynziq somewhat because I was completely turned off by, having to carry the EpiPen, the risk involved with antihistamines and anaphylaxis and all of that. But, when I hear other people's experience, especially when you've been on it long term, it's really got me thinking. And it is about choice. And I suppose for adults with PKU out there as well, it's about having the choice and, making their own decision based on their experience of having PKU and the current treatment that they're on. And I think that's hugely important because everyone's experience is so different. And I guess, and we've talked about this previously as well, there's so many things that can influence a person's ability to stay on diet, that, it's unfair to blame the victim. Everyone's challenges are different and their experiences are so different. So it does seem very much to be about choice for me on a personal note. But no, it was great hearing about that.
I think if you think about it, over 50 years ago, PKU was discovered. by a German scientist, right? And it was thought for a very long time these children would be, for a lack of a better term, mentally retarded. And now here we are almost 50 years later, and instead of it being diet for life, now we have options. We've got diet with formula, we have Kuvan, now we have Palynziq, and in the future, maybe gene therapy, as they are working on it now. But there's so many more options for people if they're still struggling, even if they're not struggling.
Somebody just posted a question there in the question and answer asking if it affected your mood or your anxiety levels when you went from diet to Palynziq. Was there a difference?
Yes, a very huge difference. Me and my sister, like I said, both have PKU, but the two of us, the way we act is far different. I would have constant outbursts of anger. I would have my down days, my up days. But then when I started Palynziq, about 2 years, maybe 3 years in, one day I woke up and I was like, I haven't yelled at anybody. I haven't had an outburst. I haven't been angry in any way. And I was like, why? And so I asked my doctor, and my doctor's like, well, your levels are under control. You know, are maintaining a good PKU level in a sense. And she's like, that's the only thing I can think of. So ever since then, I always think about how I was being angry and mad and having outbursts. And now, 10 years later, I'm like, that feels real good not to be that person, not to constantly be angry or constantly be feeling like I'm down or blue in that kind of a sense. So I do believe that it has helped with an attitude, I suppose. Attitude. I don't want to say an attitude adjustment, but it does help with your mood and your attention.
I'm conscious of time, and thank you so much, Krystal. I don't think our chat is just finished yet, because I'm giving you an opportunity now if people want to post questions, but also to invite Mark Slopey to join us. So Mark is also an adult with PKU who's on Palynziq, and he's gained a lot of significant attention in recent weeks after he posted a very emotional video. He has started on Palynziq, and it has dramatically improved his experience as well. And I hope I'm presenting a very balanced approach here, because I'm trying to, like, there's advantages and there's disadvantages, but I'd love for Mark to come in now, and if we could bring him up on screen as well, just for a moment, so he can share his story from a male perspective. So have we got you, Mark?
Hey, I am just getting off work, so I'm in my car.
As long as you're not in your pajamas, that's okay.
No, I am not. Can you all see me and hear me okay? Because I'm in my car and I'm on my Bluetooth too. So,
I see you just yet.
Good?
I can't see you just
you
yet.
Don't?
Yeah. So.
I thought I clicked that. All right, hold on. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't click it. Oh, it said you have my video disabled.
Disabled, so we're just going to get our host to.
Yep.
This is so amazing the way we can just connect with people from all over.
I know, right?
I'm super excited to hear
here we are all talking, right?
I am too. No, it's great.
I was in the study, so things were so different. So to hear his perspective.
You two, you don't know each other, Krystal and Mark, do you?
No.
No. Okay.
I just put her as a friend of mine on Facebook just a couple days ago because he told me about her. So like that's about it. This is the first time we've actually got a chance to hear and see each other. So there.
Okay. So even if we can't get your picture up on screen,
yeah, we can't, unfortunately. Sorry.
We can't, unfortunately. Thank you for trying, Jordan. But so even if we can't, I think just if you wouldn't mind telling us about your experience, Mark.
All right. So I guess if people haven't seen the video, I'll give you a quick background. So I'm 48 years old. I was only on diet until I was 5 years old, where the doctor said I could go off. So 5 years old, I had a big old ice cream cake in the works. So here I am at 48. Pretty much went all those years without being on diet. As far as my background and everything and how I did, looking at me, I was pretty much a normal kid. I had good energy. I was always pretty positive and upbeat. But when I did stuff, like when I played sports and did academics, I was always that kind of step or two behind everyone else. Especially even everyone else that was doing about the same level as me. So it wasn't really too big of a deal. I just kind of went through life. Always had to work a little bit harder, kind of a thing. So got married. I have 3 girls now. Things are going pretty good. And back in 2014, I got a severe concussion. And that threw everything for a loop. So at that time, I was 42 years old and, off diet since 5. So I went about 4 years and was not really getting much improvement on my condition from my concussion. I mean, just pretty much got to the level where I could return back to work and kind of function. And so right now I work with here we go. Right now, I work with, hi, hey everybody. I work with special needs kids. And so back then, I got to a point where my anxiety was just so high every day. My head was in a cloud. It was like I would do stuff and I wouldn't know what I was doing. I'd be in places and didn't know why I was there. I almost felt like I was like a statue in the middle of everything. And things were just happening around me, but I wasn't part of it. And it went for a while, and I was I had no idea, what was going on. And my wife comes home from work one morning, and it was a night I couldn't sleep, and I was sitting on my front porch, thunderstorm rolling through. I was in tears, praying to God, what is happening to me? I can't live another day like this. And my wife literally walks through the door, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I know what's wrong with you. It's your PKU." And as soon as she said that, I'm like, how stupid can I be? That's why I'm not recovering. That's why I'm not getting better. I have all this issue. So I went to the doctors, and I'm in Philadelphia area. So my doctors is down in Philly, and I go down there. And so I started on Kuvan, and the Kuvan brought my levels down 20%. So right before I took it, my level range, which honestly, I have known nothing about any of this medical stuff, because as you know, I was not at the doctor's pretty much my whole life. So my levels were between an 18 and a 22 typically. And when I took the Kuvan, they shot down to between 14 and 16. And for me, it made it good enough that I could function throughout the day. Now, the job I had with the special needs kids at the time, I had to leave. I was doing delivery jobs because before I started the Kuvan, I was getting 2 to 3 severe anxiety attacks a day. So I had to do something where I could stop working, and I'd have to pull over, get on my car, walk around, and wait for my anxiety to go down. And I have a BioMarin rep. I called her constantly, and she would help calm me down. And fortunately, when all the Palynziq started working for me, I was able to function. I still had the anxiety, but it was functionable. I could do my job, and it was just a couple minute breaks I had to take here and there. And my wife was just like, you know what, you should really start that Palynziq. So I started Palynziq in, I really got to think back now. It was end of March in 2019. So here we are, about a year and a half-ish later. So, and if you saw the video about 2-3 weeks ago, my levels went down, and it's kind of weird because on Palynziq for me, my levels would shoot up really high before they would go down. So I was feeling really bad in the very beginning. And so when they would go down, it would be a very quick. They would go from 22 to 24 down, and it went from that high all the way down to 0.3 in 2 days. So when my levels changed, I felt terrible. And people would look at me and say, what's wrong? I'm like, ugh. And at the beginning, I really didn't know. I was like, I don't know, I'm on this, and things are changing. So I was just getting used to it. So it took me about somewhere between 8 and 9 months till I started responding, but my levels were all over the place. Like I said, I went down to a 0.3, then shot back up to about a 9, then went back to like a 1, and this is over the course of
Sorry to
about 8
interrupt
months
you, Mark.
about a year in.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. You're mentioning an awful lot there around levels, and I'm wondering, Krystal, could you translate those into our European levels, or if you know, Mark, yourself?
Thank you.
Yeah. So, but I understand when you say out of range and coming back into normal range. In the United States, your normal range is slightly different to us in Ireland. So for adults, we keep our levels between 160 and 600. Whereas in America, you keep them the same for no matter what age you are. I understand it's under 360 or 400. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Does that make sense? So yeah, so it's very different from that perspective. 360 in this, somebody just commented there. Thanks for that. 360 in the States.
Yeah.
So to explain, Krystal, where Mark is coming from, how high were his levels in European terms to come back down?
So I was at 32. You're at 20. You said you were 24?
Yeah, my highest was around the 24. And that I was pretty fortunate too, because I was off diet. You know, I wasn't even on diet like at all. Like chicken, steak, nuts, like ice cream, whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. So
I wasn't.
And you have classical PKU.
I was very lucky. I didn't realize that until I joined this group.
And Mark, sorry if you don't mind me interrupting as well. You have a relative as well with PKU.
Yes.
Who was late diagnosed.
Yes. So I have an older sister. She is like 8, 9 years older than me. And so my parents had no idea what was wrong with her until I was born. I was like the oops baby, right? So so when I was born, it was an official law that everybody had to be tested for PKU in America, where when my sister was, it wasn't. Some hospitals did it, some didn't. And unfortunately, she was born in a hospital that didn't do it. So when we figured out what she had, they, as far as I know, I don't think they didn't put her on a diet or anything. So she's in a home right now. She can't speak. She can't take care of herself. She has severe brain damage. I mean, she recognizes us when we go visit and stuff like that. But yeah, she lives in an assisted living facility where there's nurses on staff around the clock. Now, I mean, now that she's older, like when she was around between 18 and 20 years old, they started giving her a diet, and that helped her because she would get like, she was always a pleasant person too. I think our personalities would have been the same, but she would get frustrated at times, and she wouldn't get violent with people, but she would get violent with herself. She would hit herself.
It's just interesting. Sorry, Mark.
It was really tough. Yeah.
Just to mention as well, it's really interesting that your sister was late diagnosed and you were off diet from when you were 5 years old. Yet you don't have an intellectual disability. Yeah. So that I've come across that within the Irish community as well, where somebody has a sibling, same mutation. And you know, the Phi isn't crossing the blood-brain barrier. I understand in somewhere in Scandinavian countries, there's researchers actually looking at that worldwide, because it's very, very strange. But overall, your experience of Palynziq, for you were off diet, and you found it beneficial. You mentioned that you have a friend who has PKU but is not very happy with the use of needles, so would like to go on Palynziq, but it's nervous about the needles, right? Yeah,
I keep talking to him. I just know him from the PKU group, and we chat often, and you know, we have same views and stuff, so we chat often, you know. So yeah, he went to his doctors, and he was really kind of freaked out by all the side effects. And granted, there are a lot of side effects, but for most people, they're mostly minimal side effects. So I did get like itching. I got itchiness a bunch, but it wasn't too bad. It would come and go. I also would get joint pain, and honestly, I played sports and stuff, so I dislocated my thumb and my middle finger before. So typically that's where my pain generates from the most. It kind of hits those spots that's cranky on me, So, but I do occasionally get joint pain in my lower back and my other hand too, but it's minor. It's way less, and I just pop an Advil and I'm good to go.
You're taking your medication to offset those side effects. Is that working for you, Mark? So you take antihistamines and it does work well for you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I take a Zyrtec every day, and it definitely cuts back on my side effects. I actually probably did something I shouldn't have. I stopped taking it for a while. I just wanted to see what happened, because they say after your body kind of accepts the Palynziq, eventually you don't need the pre-meds. And it's kind of different for everyone from what I gather. But so I just wanted to stop just to see, because once I hit the level mark, back in March up till beginning of June, I leveled off at around a 5 for me, which was really good at the time. So I wanted to see, and I went about a month and a half, and I did get like severe itching, and it was like all over my body, and it kind of cropped up on me, and I was like, okay, I think I know what this is from. I started popping my pre-meds again, doing my Zyrtec, and it was just one a day, and pretty much the same time every day, and it went away right away.
Okay, I've got some questions coming in. So the first question, I'll give this one to you, Krystal. It says, do you still weigh foods when eating out or ask to see nutritional information? Do you have the freedom to just order at ease with 66 grams of protein per day?
I do not measure food. I don't weigh food. I order whatever I want and just keep on going.
Yep.
I have another question. And the question is, do the patients under continuing take minerals such as, do you take a multivitamin or do you take a DHA rich oil?
I take a multivitamin just, because of my line of work and with everything going on. I've taken multivitamins to boost up my immune system. But I mean, no.
How about you, Mark?
Yeah, I do the same. I just take a multivitamin just because, just helps keep me healthier, but it's not required. Just to keep, like Krystal said, just to keep my immune system up, feeling better every day kind of a thing.
A very kind of broad diet anyway, so you're probably getting good nutrition from that. And I'd say, is weight management an issue? Because now if you've gone from, well, in both your cases, you weren't like really strict diet, but if you had been, are you now eating more unhealthy food because you're on Palynziq? Do you think? I'm so mean.
No, you're fine. I didn't gain much weight. I mean, I've been the same weight since I was like 16, but I have a super fast metabolism and I'm still super active now. So I don't know if maybe that's different. Like my sister's all the carbs, how like we love potatoes. Every patient with PKU, there's something about potatoes, right? Potatoes are high in carbs and it can increase your weight. But I do know my sister, she struggles with weight. But I think that's different for everybody.
I just wondered with taking Palynziq now. Another question that's come through is Palynziq suitable for classical PKU patients that are late diagnosed? Are you aware of anybody in your experience? I actually don't know the answer to that question, but have either of you come across somebody who's late diagnosed that's on Palynziq? You mentioned, Mark, that your sister was on Kuvan, right?
Yeah, she was on Kuvan, but I guess they figured Palynziq would just be a little too much at her late stage. I mean, it can only do so much because she already had her brain damage that she had younger, and she kind of leveled off. But I actually was talking to a woman on the PKU Worldwide group after I did my video, and she was not diagnosed till around 10 years old, and she's thinking of starting up soon. And yeah, it seems like developmentally seems like she's doing pretty well, and she's just kind of like me. We're off diet most of her life, trying to get back on. It was really hard, you know, not feeling well. Like all you guys know, you know how it feels when you have bad days, the fogginess and the headaches and all that stuff. So yeah, she's going to be starting pretty soon.
Somebody had a question around GMP. GMP is a product that's used to manage diet as well. It's got some fee in it, medicated drink, but could that be used alongside Palynziq? But I don't think, I think they're kind of two separate. I think GMP really is for those that are on diet. And Palynziq, there's no formulas required along with it. Am I correct in saying that?
No.
So
No
Yeah,
formula.
Yeah, so when I started my Palynziq, I was actually taking Kuvan because, like I said, when I was doing it, I had severe anxiety attacks. So I was taking Kuvan until my level started to drop. And as soon as my level started to drop, they took me off the Kuvan right away because all I needed was the Palynziq.
How about you, Krystal? Were you on synthetic formula, protein formula for a while?
So I do know right before I started taking the injections, I was on formula. I was not on GMP, but I do know of patients who were on GMP and following diet that started Palynziq. So 100% you can start Palynziq while on diet and take the formula that your doctor has prescribed to you. But after a while, they will tell you to stop taking the formula and start supplementing in the diet.
I just want to be clear, we're not making any recommendations for patients here today. It's, you know, they'll seek that information from their health professional, but it's just based around your experiences, both of you, and that's what you're sharing today.
Yeah.
So how would you compare how you felt on Kuvan versus Palynziq? Was a question here from somebody.
I love this question. I do. When I was on Kuvan, I felt clear-headed. I did not have the cloudiness feeling. My head just felt super clear, and I felt like I was in cloud nine. I could see everything. Like Mark had explained, I didn't feel like a statue in the middle of a room. Then I started Palynziq. While my levels did come down, I missed that clear-headedness feeling that I had. So I have made comments about, hey, can I just take like one tablet of Kuvan or something? And they're like, no. Over time, it did get better. But while I did not respond to Kuvan, I wish I could take Kuvan just for that mere effect that I had of being on cloud nine, having that clear head.
So when you say clear head, do you mean that fogginess is not
the
there?
fogginess isn't
Everyone
there.
talks about that fog. Yeah.
It's hard to explain,
Oh my
but
God.
the way
is.
Mark explained it, it was just spot on. I'm like sitting there, I'm like, dude, you're in my head. This
Yeah.
is great.
Super.
I like thought so long and hard about how to explain this because I'm jotting down notes and stuff over the past like 2 years about how I've been feeling. And I really had to ponder that a long time. And it was so hard to come up with the words on how you feel. And that was the best thing I could think of. Like when you're in a big plaza with this big, beautiful statue and everybody's looking at it, but it's not really part of it. It's not experiencing it. It's just there. And that is what I came up with.
I used to tell, I'm going to use your example now, but I used to tell people, I just feel like
Yeah.
I have a million little people running around in my head and nothing is correlating. Nothing's, the same. Everything is just.
Yep. Yeah, my kids always used to say, Dad, focus. I'm like, all right, I'm back. Yeah, it's like a million things can go on, but.
Yeah, wow. So do you think this medication should be available? Would you have benefited? You sound like you would have benefited had you got it sooner, being that you were both off diet. Do you think it would have had an impact, or even having your Phe more well controlled at an earlier stage would it have had an impact for you? Do you think?
Honestly, for me, that's a tough question.
Strange,
I wouldn't.
yeah.
I don't know, because when it worked, I'm not like Krystal. Like I said, the Kuvan for me just got me be able to survive through a day and be able to get through a day and do what I needed to do. Whereas when Palynziq worked, I felt like a superhero. It was unbelievable. Like, I don't know. It's like the statue analogy. I can't even bring the words on how awesome it felt and how amazing it was to have that work and get my levels between a 2 and a 3. And granted, I think my levels have gone up a bit. I mean, not by any way like possible. I'm guessing around the 5. I actually have to do one soon, but I still feel really good. But when you get that like feeling for a week straight, and it's like, man, I want that back. It's like I just crave it. It's like an addiction. It's amazing. It really is.
No, the reason I ask you,
my whole life, I never experienced levels like that ever in my life.
really, I'm so happy for you, Mark. I really am. It's an incredible story. I was so touched when I saw your video on social media as well. I have to say, my own eyes, I welled it when I heard it. And Krystal, from your perspective, do you think you would have benefited had you received it earlier? And the reason I am asking this question is, as a parent, you know, I've often thought, you know, that if it was for me or for my child, I would be encouraging them to consider it when they're older, because there's that fear thing, right? You know, make sure that the brain is fully developed before you start experimenting with medications. And I've spoken to other parents who have, you know, similar ideas around that. So do you feel from your experience that you would have benefited had you had it from when you were, say, 16?
I don't believe at 16, I personally would have been mature enough to make sure to keep up with taking the daily injection, checking my Phe levels. At 16, that was not something I was thinking about. I was thinking about spending time with my friends, going out, playing sports, stuff like that. But when I did start Palynziq, I was 19. I had grown up a little bit. I realized a few things. And this, again, it was back when the study existed. Now that it's open on a, I don't want to say business, but being able to be prescribed more freely, that since it's been approved by the FDA, I would 100% tell patients or tell their parents, consider this. If you've exhausted all of your options and nothing is working, consider doing Palynziq. Consider the benefits with the negatives, but consider that this medication is, I don't want to say the best because that's my own opinion, but it has more positives than it does negatives for patients. If you do have a 16-year-old and you're considering having them do this, make sure it's their decision that they want to do this. But at the same time, make sure you're taking a team approach with it. Because again, at 16, I don't believe I was mature enough to even comprehend everything. I started this when I was 19, when I was a little bit more older, had been out on my own for a little bit and realized this is something I have to do for myself. I want to thank everybody at BioMarin who put in all their time and effort into making this medication, because had they not done it, I don't believe I would personally be in a good health, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic that pharma is actually looking at this area of PKU and looking at treatment options, because I think to the outside world, PKU is something that's solved. That box is ticked. We've got dietary therapy in Ireland, and in Ireland too, I have come across even medics and had conversations about my child, and you know, they must be in a special school, or you know, and people still don't seem to get it. And until the correct supports are in place for dietary therapy as well, it's really hard to compare it to anything, you know, because I think a lot of countries, particularly for adult care, are currently stretched, and PKU is something that's really associated as a child's condition, and it's associated with the heel prick test. And beyond that, I think that PKU is somewhat forgotten. So I'm grateful to companies and researchers who are looking at other treatment options because, families, they really need it. So something I actually, on that note, I wanted to do at the start of the session, which I completely forgot about, was to do a poll. And I'm just going to launch that poll because I'm just interested to see where everybody is coming from and what their connection with PKU is that have joined us here this evening. So everybody can take part. So if you just want to select your options there, and we'll just share that. It's just interesting to see where everyone's coming from. And I'm also going to check in and see if we have any more questions. I have a question here for you, Mark. You mentioned at the beginning. Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, you mentioned at the beginning. Okay? Yeah, I can hear you. That levels were going up and down in large swings for a while. And did the Palynziq effect kick in overnight, or was it more gradual? It would be interesting to hear more about the transition. So I assume that when you started on Palynziq, it was you were gradually introduced to the medication, right? Would you explain that?
Yeah. So when Palynziq all started, I started it, and everybody does this. We started a 10 milligram dosage, and you get used to it. So it was, I think, twice a week I took it, because when you get the Palynziq, it's a foreign body, and your body reacts as it's an intruder and attacks it. That's why there's a chance of anaphylactic shock. So with the Palynziq, so my first visit at the doctor's office, I was right there. I took my very first injection right there, and they observed me for an hour. And then for another hour, they went through all the things that, I need to go through, told me possible side effects and, things like that. So then after a while, I built up to a 20 milligram dosage, and that was every day. And that took about, I'm honestly trying to remember, I think it was about between 2 weeks and a month, just to make sure, there's no severe reactions. And then after a while, I wasn't responding on the 20 milligrams, and then they put me up to 40 milligrams, which, oh, I'm sorry, I just lost my speaker. Okay. They put me up to a 40 milligrams, and then after a couple months on the 40 milligrams, that's when I started responding. And then in all, it was somewhere between 8 and 9 months till my levels actually started to drop. And so during that time, before my levels were dropping, I was on the Kuvan to regulate my levels as much as I could. So, if you are older and you do have higher levels, you can do that until your levels drop on Palynziq. And as soon as they start to drop, I went off the Kuvan. And then, so from that 8-9 month mark till now, my levels have been up and down. But since like May till now, they've been more in a very good range.
They're starting to stabilize.
Yeah. So, but when they do change, though, my level does shoot up even now, and then it goes down again. So, but it doesn't go up to in the 20s. It'll probably go up to between a 12 and a 14, and then go back down to, between 2 and 5 now is about my range
do you think,
I level off at.
What do you think is causing that, Mark? Are you following the strict number of grams as well? You are? Okay. Super.
So
okay.
So I do the 40 milligrams all the time. It's 2 shots a day, and what I think what's happening is I'm kind of guessing and going by kind of what doctor said. I didn't really go into great detail about, but it seems like I think my body kind of almost does all right, I'm going to try to fight this before my levels drop, and it's almost like a final stand kind of thing, and then I guess it just kind of gives up, and then boom, then my levels drop. My BioMarin rep said that until some people go 3 years until your body 100% fully accepts this, but then when it happens, it's that's you're good, you're level, and your levels should stay pretty even, and even your milligram dosages could change, because as your body accepts it, if my body would 100% accept it, I might drop back down to a 20 milligram dosage. And I've even heard of people that are on 10 milligrams and not even every day. So everybody's different. And you might take up to 60 milligrams a day, and you might take as little as 10 or 10 a couple times a week. So like I said, everybody's different. And, you know, once it starts and you try it, you work with your doctors and you just regulate what works for you, but it will work.
Great. Thank you very much, Mark. I really appreciate that. I just have some questions and comments pouring in here. A question for you,
Sure.
Krystal. Can I ask you, are your energy levels in terms of daily routine and exercise in Palynziq, are they different on diet only medications? Are they different when you were on diet against when you were on diet?
Like my energy levels or
Energy
like
levels and your exercise, yeah, exercising, do you have more energy?
yes, I feel it's like I said, I've been on Palynziq for 10 years. So like I have to go back to think, and versus Palynziq to when I was just on diet, I feel like my energy levels are 100% better now than they were 10 years ago. I feel that I'm not more energetic, but a well-balanced energetic. My mood is way better. My attention span is 100% better.
Do you have any side effects from low levels? So sometimes, as somebody has commented that they've read that some people have hair loss from their Phe levels dropping too low.
Yes. So I do know in the research study that was something that was brought up was about hair loss. So I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose my hair. But I have like super thick hair. So I was like, oh, I could afford to lose some, right? My Phe levels, like Mark, did do a 360. They would drop down really low and then pop right back up, but then they drop down low. And for a very long time, I believe about 3 years, my Phe levels were at 0. So over into Ireland, that's 0, right? My Phe level was 0 for like the longest time. At first, they were concerned about it. And then I was like, no, I feel great. Please don't change my dose. Please don't do anything. I feel 100% amazing. And then after a year, I was like, I'm going to skip this injection. I'm going to eat more of this. I'm going to skip these 2 days, blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, why are you doing this? I said, because now I'm not feeling too great. And I want my Phe levels to come back up. So there is that side effect that when you do drop down too low, dangerously low, as they were telling me, is that you could the side effect of losing your hair. Those side effects of the mood changes could come back. That inattention span that you once thought was, fixed, now you have attention. No, that can come back if your Phe levels get too low. So that's why it's super important that this is a team approach and that you go to your physician's clinic and you have your Phe levels constantly checked to make sure that you're in that good range right there of 100 to 360. I believe in Ireland is what you said it was.
Well, under 600 for adults, 160 to 600 for adults. So it's slightly higher. In the States, it's on our conversion rate, it would be 360 would be the higher end in the States. So I have a question here for you, Krystal, again. So for Krystal, when having such a high allowance of protein a day, do you find that when you go over your allowance that the effects of too much protein aren't as severe, or do you not worry about that in general anymore?
My honest answer to you is going to be that I honestly haven't even hit the 66 milligrams of protein a day. I have been at 66 milligrams of protein for the past 8 years, 7, 8 years, and I have yet to reach that amount of protein in a day. I have tried, but like I said, I'm a small little eater. I don't eat big meals, so that I don't even count anymore, because if I even get to 60, I'll be lucky. Even if I get to 50, I'm lucky.
And
well,
just
I'm
in
sure
terms,
I go over that all the time.
oh really? Do you go much above it, Mark? Would you go many grams above, or?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't keep track, but I have no problem with have like a couple pieces of chicken at night. You know, like I eat whatever I want whenever I want. I mean, I'm not like large or anything. I definitely have a healthy conscience and try to eat right and stuff like that. But if I feel like 2 pieces of chicken or extra fish or another piece of steak, I don't even think twice. So, and granted, for me too, I have been eating meat my whole life too. So it's I for a while I can understand where Krystal is coming from about the eating meat thing and feeling unsettled. For a year and a half, I did do a total vegetarian diet, and I did feel really good when I did it. But my wife went back to college. Things got busy, and when you do that, you got to prepare everything, like your snacks, everything, because we ate nothing out of a box. We ate fresh meals made from scratch, and we would just do like a Carnivore Wednesday, we called it, for the kids. It was fun. But
there's a lot of management in that.
When I went back to eating meat, when I went back to eating meat though, I felt sick for a couple weeks every time I ate meat. But I feel like it's something your stomach has to get used to if you don't do it.
Yeah, so there does seem to be time that you have to allow for Palynziq really or your body time to adjust. And that time sounds like from both your cases can take a couple of years. So it doesn't happen just overnight. So people need to give it a chance, I guess.
Once your body responds to it, like your levels will go down, but they will pop up again and go back down. But yeah, like they said, it could take up to 3 years till your body totally 100% accepts it. But I wanted to tag on to something Krystal said a little while ago about her low Phe levels, how she felt good. When I get low Phe levels, when I got it, so about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, before I hit my 3, where I felt great, I was down to a 0.9. I felt terrible. When I went down to a 0.3, I felt as bad in a different way, though. Mind you, in a different way, I felt bad, like 0.3, like in like anxiety that's different. Not like my anxiety attacks anxiety, but it was weird. Like I felt like almost like everybody was out to get me.
I've heard that
everything
reported.
I was doing was wrong. I felt absolute horrible at 0.3 and 0.9. Where it's funny how Krystal said she felt good, and I was like actually shocked by that comment.
Yeah,
it's interesting because even on diet, people say sometimes when their levels drop too low. Now it doesn't affect everybody, but it's something I certainly ask people, and they can feel the same way they do when their blood levels are too high. So I've heard that from people before they report
Very
that.
similar.
So, and again, everybody's different, right? We're gone over time, which I suspect it was going to happen, so I made allowances for that. But I want you both to know that you're getting the most incredible comments in the chat. I don't know if you can see that. You were even referred to as a superhero, Mark. You mentioned it, and people were agreeing with you.
I know.
They said great job, and so thankful for you for sharing, the adult voice on therapy. I hope that I gave a balanced approach in terms of your experience, and there are obviously advantages and there are disadvantages to every treatment, but overall it sounds like both of you have had somewhat of a good experience on Palynziq, and that we must recognize that everyone's case is different. Everyone's scenario is going to be different. So can you read all those chats in there? You can.
Yeah, they're popping up on my screen. It's great.
Yeah, so you got really positive, and everyone's really enjoying the discussion. It's not one that's had too often, and for us in Ireland, obviously, we don't know anybody on Palynziq, so it's great to get the discussion going. Rock stars, we got somebody saying there. Yeah. So you're celebrities in Ireland without even realizing it. We're so grateful to you both, and without adult patients sharing their experience, none of us would know. So we're so incredibly grateful to you. The slide has come up now with the PKU Association contact details for our own patient members, our own PKU community from Ireland that are listening in. And we're strongly encouraging adults from Ireland to get involved in our association as well, so that we can represent your voice and that you can represent your voice. And we would absolutely love to have you on board. So there are details. Please get in contact. And I also just want to make you aware as well, the PKU Association are going to be sending out a survey on patient experience in Ireland. We, as an organization, will be representing you as a group in a patient submission, just like was done for Kuvan reimbursement. So we'll be entering the same process for Palynziq. So we'd really appreciate people sharing that survey amongst the community and completing that survey and getting back to us so that the association can best represent you. So please do get in contact with us. And on that note, I'd like to thank Krystal and Mark wholeheartedly for sharing their experience with us here in Ireland. We're so grateful to you, and we hope you have a good evening, because you have more time than we do in Chicago and Philadelphia. Yep. So have a great evening, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. And thank you very much to everyone else who's joined us this evening. And to Jordan, who's hosting the event for us too. All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye now.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.